There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Well, hello, BookTube. I'm Sean the Book Maniac, and it's time for Victober. Here's my TBR. I don't know why I didn't read Victorian literature throughout the year because I had such a blast in Victober last year, my first Victober, but I just kind of wanted to keep it all concentrated in Victober 2019, so it feels like Christmas to me. Do I sound overly eager? Take a deep breath, Sean. Victober is a month-long readathon of Victorian literature. The co-hosts are Katie of Books and Things, Ange of Beyond the Pages, Kate Howe, and Lucy of Lucy the Reader. And I am so stoked to be a part of it once more. There are 5 prompts plus some read-alongs. I won't talk about the read-alongs because I've decided I probably won't partake, but I will of course put links to the 4 co-hosts announcement videos where you can find all the info about the read-alongs. I think you're doing a couple Oscar Wilde plays, maybe that's all, which I've already read, and I'd rather read some new stuff. So, the first challenge, Ange's challenge, is to read a book by a Victorian female author. Bonus points if it's one that's new to you. So yes, I have one that is new to me, and I just realized I need another book. There we go. Last year, not for Victober, but sometime last fall, I read this biography of E.F. Benson by Brian Masters. E.F. Benson was a writer whose debut was at the tail end of the Victorian period, maybe 1891. Dodo, and I did read that debut novel for Victober last year, but his masterpiece was the 1935 Map in Lucia, and I think he didn't write much more after that, but I think he died 1940 or thereabouts. Anyway, why am I holding this book up as part of my Victober TBR? Because when he was working on his first novel, Dodo, which was a bestseller, it's not that good. I mean, it's good, but it's not that good. But it was a bestseller. He showed it to 2 writers. One was Henry James. Henry James gave it somewhat faint praise and encouraged him to keep working on it. And the other was another friend of the family's. His family was illustrious. His father was the Archbishop of Canterbury and blah, blah, blah. Fascinating, the story of his life. But I keep digressing. The other writer was Lucas Malet. I did a Twitter poll to find out how people from the UK would pronounce that French-sounding surname for the pseudonym, and 70% of the respondents agreed with what the audio narrator in a book on LibriVox pronounced it, which somebody helpfully pointed me towards. Malet. So I pronounce it 17 different ways in the next few minutes, but it's Malet. But that was a pen name of a woman, and I had never heard of Lucas. I'm going to say Malet. Okay, the internet's not helping me, but I did hear Malet, so maybe it's Lucas Malet. Anyway, if anybody knows how to pronounce her name, her pen name, please tell me. Lucas Malet is the pseudonym of Mary St. Leger Kingsley, born 1852, died 1931. She started writing in the Victorian period. Her most famous novels are The Wages of Sin, 1891, and The History of Sir Richard Calmady, 1901. Both of those would be Victorian. But I chose one that was on Scribd as an ebook and was of reasonable length. And what I have chosen is The Gateless Barrier, 1900. It's also on Gutenberg. Do I know what it's about? I'm so excited I didn't have time to fully prepare. Oh, I do. Scribd does have a synopsis, and now I'm a little nervous because it's described here as both a love story and a ghost story. I hate ghost stories. The protagonist is a writer who inherits a family mansion from his ominous cousin Montague, and there's a locked yellow drawing room left intact since the early 19th century. Well, I will try it. I have backup, but I really hate ghost stories, so just found that out now, live on my video. Do you want to take a wager that I'm going to bail? It is 250 pages. But I was curious to find out in the pages of this E.F. Benson biography about a pseudonymous female late 19th century novelist that I'd never heard of, Lucas Malet. Yeah, I did check this before. For example, her best-known 1901 novel, The History of Sir Richard Carmody, a romance, is 1,000 pages. So no, it's this one or nothing for Victober. Wish me luck! I have another backup, which I'll talk about at the end of the video. Number 2 is Kate's challenge, reread a Victorian book. And for that one, I had already planned, before I knew what the prompts would be, to reread Wuthering Heights with Britta Bowler. So that's mine for this prompt. I have read this at least twice, maybe 3 times, all of it at university. And I loved it every time. And the only thing I remember are Heathcliff's dogs, which I believe we meet on the very first page, and the classic line, "Nellie, I am Heathcliff." I don't remember another blessed thing about it. Looking forward to rereading it with Britta. Number 3 is Katie's challenge. Read a Victorian book under 250 pages and or over 500 pages. I think some of these are under 250 pages, but yeah, one of them is. But for the over 500 pages challenge, I am finally getting to the second volume of Trollope's Palliser series. Steve Donahue did a read-along of Can You Forgive Her last year, which I absolutely loved, and then I wasn't able to join in his read-along because he announced it the day before it was starting, and my buddy read and whatever schedule is always planned out weeks, if not months in advance. So I wasn't able to participate in Phineas Finn, so I'm doing it for Victober, and the print book is something like 750 pages. I'm going to do an audio-text combo. The audiobook is 28 hours, and I did that same audio text combo for Can You Forgive Her, and it's the same narrator of the audiobook. He's one of my very most favorite audio narrators. He does Trollope masterfully. David Shaw Parker, just to die for. So I'm so excited. Number 4 was the most challenging. I love a good challenge, but this one was really challenging. Lucy's challenge. Read an underrated Victorian book from the same year as your favorite Victorian classic. It's really hard to find lists of obscure or not so popular Victorian fiction sorted by year. And if you go to the year in fiction, you don't find much that's not so popular. So I just kind of reverse engineered it. I don't really think of 19th century books as my favorites, so I either love them or I didn't love them, but I don't really have favorites. But one of the ones that I would pick if forced to, and I was forced to, is Hardy's The Mayor of Casterbridge, 1886. And I found an obscure novel. It was listed on the Wikipedia page for 1886 in literature. Not the most appealing name. Grizelda by Alice Deal. Alice Deal, born 1844 to died 1912, was an English musician and novelist, born in Essex. She was a piano performer, married a violinist and composer, had 6 children. Her piano playing was praised by Berlioz, and then she transitioned into writing books, sounds like memoirs, and almost 50 novels, including Grizelda. A recent critic described Grizelda as a heavy-handed story of womanly self-sacrifice. Sounds like my life! Anyway, for some reason, even on ebook, it's published as 3 separate volumes, the way that it was originally. Each volume is selling for $1 on Kindle. I'm going to try it. I think I previewed the first page. The writing didn't sound horrible, and I'm going to see what Grizelda is all about. Yeah, I'm not finding any helpful synopsis online, so I will tell you about it later, but that's what I'm going to try for prompt number 4. The general challenge is to read anything for any length of time by candlelight, and I probably will skip that. I don't have candles. I don't have the best eyesight, the old geezer that I am, so I don't think I'll worry about that. Oh, sorry, the group read-alongs are The Importance of Being Earnest and A Woman of No Importance. I have a list of a few other books, some of which I definitely want to get to, and others will be just, if I bail on stuff, these will be some backups. So one that I'm definitely getting to, because it's a buddy read, and will be my backup for a new female writer, if necessary, is one I found out about, because Sharon Goforth, a wonderful new booktuber that you should all be following, I will leave a link to her channel below, she I think it was in her book haul, and she got it for the purpose of reading it for Victober, and I said, okay, let's buddy read it. So I ordered it, and here it is. It's called A Writer of Books by George Paston, which was the pseudonym of Emily Morse Simmons. I wonder if she's related to the something Addington Simmons. I've never heard of George Paston, Emily Simmons, but it was a work of feminist fiction first published in 1899, and it's about a female writer. Gorgeous cover. Newly republished by Academy Chicago Publishers, a century after it was first published. This one doesn't quite fit within the very strict restrictions on what you can read during Victober, but this is a book about a writer's fascination with Elizabeth Gaskell. Modern memoir, or collection of essays, I'm not really sure. It's one that Ange suggested that we buddy read it. The Victorian and the Romantic, a memoir, a love story, and a friendship across time by Nell Stevens. History meets memoir in two true-life love stories between two sets of writers. One unfolding in 19th century Rome, one in present-day Paris and London. I'm not sure what this is going to be about, but I thought it was about Gaskell. Anyway, Ange and I'll be buddy reading it. I'll tell you all about it later. If you were following me a year ago, you will know that the highlight of my Victober in 2018 was my very first novel by Charlotte Mary Young, The Heir of Redcliffe. I will put a link to my review. I just was bamboozled by how deeply I loved that novel. So I'm going to try my second novel by Charlotte Young, and it's shorter. It's called The Carbonlis, and I'm trying it because it's short and it's on Scrib. What can I tell you about it? Published 1895. Google Books says Little Mary Carbonel was not the worse for all the agitations. Yeah, I have no idea what it's about. So 175 pages on ebook. I will let you know how it goes, but it's not cited as one of her best known or best works, so I may not like it nearly as much as I love The Heir of Redcliffe, but I just really am craving some more Charlotte Young. The other one, which I absolutely must get to, or extend my Victober well into November if need be, is a Victorian novel that I've been wanting to read for decades. The Odd Women by George Gissing. I've heard so many good things about this. I've never read anything by Gissing. 1893, and it's quite a feminist text from everything I've heard, and also a really good novel. So yeah, here I go. 3 more that are just on my pile of possibilities. I've got quite a load here, but I also do tend to bail. Victorian literature is probably the kind of literature I'm the least likely to bail on. I think last year I had 1 bail. If I can get to them, I have long wanted to read George Meredith's novel, Diana of the Crossways. I talked a little bit about why when I hauled this very recently, but I won't regurgitate all that. 1885 novel, quite a chunky one, and as I did discover went live on my video, I hate the facsimile font, but so I would be reading this as an ebook if I get to it. I haven't even done my haul video in which I would be telling you about picking this up here in Tokyo, and that is another George Eliot novel that I haven't ever gotten to, Felix Holt, The Radical. This is quite a chunky one. I don't think I ever remembered that this 1866 novel was so chunky, but I definitely want to get to it one of these days. And probably the lowest on the list, because the more I look into this, it sounds a little boring. If any of you out there have read it, please let me know. But Mrs. Humphrey Ward's Helbeck of Bannister, even the title just doesn't really inspire you to want to pick it up. It is an 1888 novel about the love between man and women and religion. So it was the churchiness of it that I wasn't sure about, but someday I will try it. The likelihood of it being for this Victober, pretty low. So, I think I'm going to have a fabulous Victober. What do you think? Are you participating in Victober? Where is your TBR? Thanks for watching.